Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Up in the Air. I'm Ryan Breton.
And I'm Meredith Fish. Welcome back to the show, Ryan. We missed you.
Thanks so much, Maren. Later in the show, I'll talk a little bit about what I learned while at the National Weather Association's meeting in Salt Lake City last week.
Awesome. We look forward to it. And tonight we have a lot to discuss, ranging from tsunamis to fall foliage to our climate outlook. So let's get started with Update in the Air. With the impressive economic growth in China over the past 3 decades, power generation is one industry where China still struggles. The country knows it must decrease the dependence on coal. Within the past year, renewables such as wind and solar power accounted for more than fossil fuel and nuclear energy combined. But the issue is getting the country to use the renewable energy. Much of the energy generated by the renewables is wasted as grid operators favor coal-fired plants to help them recoup the cost of their investments. Therefore, the wind and solar energy generators find themselves handicapped by more than the high cost of their technology. This past year, the rate of curtailment was 10% nationwide, which is better than the past, but in Britain, it was less than 2%. With officials in Beijing favoring reformation among dispatchers and the energy industry as a whole, hopefully renewable energy will get the attention it deserves.
Now, you may have noticed that last week I wasn't on the show, and no, I wasn't skipping out. Instead, I was one of 7 Penn State students attending the National Weather Association's 39th annual meeting in Salt Lake City, Utah. Much of the conference focused on improving the communication of weather forecasts. The National Weather Service seems to be taking a serious look at the way watches, warnings, and advisories are issued and is currently reflecting on ways they can be improved. Patricia Boyle from the UK Met Office discussed how they only use 4, yes, only 4 colors to communicate their watches and warnings in the UK, while the Weather Service here in the US uses over 100. Last January's Atlanta snowstorm nightmare, in which thousands of people were stranded on roads and highways, was discussed at length due to the fact that Atlanta area residents did not clearly understand the impact the snow would have on them from the National Weather Service warnings. We learned a lot and look forward to applying what we learned here at Penn State and in the future.
Sao Paulo is experiencing its worst drought in over 8 decades. The Cantaria system, the largest reservoir in the area, has a peak capacity of 264 billion gallons of water and is at risk of running dry as capacity levels hover around 3%. The state water utility has had to take drastic measures, pumping 10.6 billion gallons from deep under the reservoir, another 28 billion from deep under a second reservoir, and sending 20 tanker trucks to cities hit hardest by water rationing. Some residents have not had water for days, leading to protests and confrontation with police. Many people were criticizing the governor for hiding the water shortage in order to win at the polls. Scientists are joining the argument, saying that environmental education and awareness needs to be improved, as the situation could have been lessened if the public knew of the problem earlier. In order to prevent a collapse of the region, talk of adapting consumption patterns and reservoir systems will eliminate the potential for this happening again. A mass of marine debris was discovered in a giant sinkhole in the Hawaiian Islands, providing evidence of at least one massive tsunami to hit the islands. A 9.0 magnitude earthquake off the coast of the Aleutian Islands caused the 30-foot wall of water to leave 9 shipping containers worth of ocean sediment in a sinkhole off the island of Kauai. That tsunami, which occurred about 500 years ago, was at least 3 times the size of the 1946 tsunami, which was the most destructive in Hawaii's recent history. A tsunami of that magnitude is only expected to occur once every 1,000 years. However, with the country having a population of nearly 1 million people, the country is revising their tsunami evacuation maps. Using the 2011 Toku earthquake, scientists used a wave model to predict how a tsunami of that magnitude would affect the Kauai coastline. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center is hoping to have the new evacuation plans distributed to residents by the end of the year.
A new online mapping tool by NOAA called the Lake Level Viewer will help communities along the Great Lakes plan for and adapt to changes in lake water levels. The easy-to-use interactive tool was developed by the National Ocean Service's Office for Coastal Management as a part of its Digital Coast Initiative. Jim Schwab, a certified planner, says, quote, "The Lake Level Viewer provides planners and decision makers with visual lake level scenarios for the rise and drop information before it happens." Scenarios of lake levels can be incorporated into decisions along with economic, societal, and environmental changes. Over the past decade, there has been a steady decline in lake levels, according to NOAA. However, in the past year alone, lake levels rose from between 6 and 12 inches on all but Lake Ontario. Last winter's snow and ice plus a rainy spring contributed to the marked increase. With all of this in mind, the Lake Level Viewer will improve the ways communities can prepare and prevent impact from lake level changes in the future. And that is Update in the Air for this week. We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back to Up in the Air.
It's now time for our risk report from Penn State's Weather Risk Management Club.
Joining us this week, Amanda Hendricks and Faith Eretz with this week's report. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having us.
What can we expect weather-wise for this upcoming winter?
Although this coming winter is expected to be cooler than average, especially in the central U.S., it is not anticipated to be as brutally cold as this past winter was. Last winter was 11% colder than the previous 10-year average, according to the Energy Information Administration, or EIA. Additionally, trends suggest that the highest amounts of snow will move west this year, meaning that snowfall totals on the East Coast will be only 6% above average, compared to last year's 14%.
What is causing this cold trend to continue over the span of several winters?
One factor behind these chillier winters is the El Niño pattern. El Niño is the presence of warmer than average waters in the eastern Pacific, and it affects weather patterns worldwide. Although it is not developed yet, a weak to moderate El Niño is expected by WSI forecasters to emerge this winter and could change the outcome for winter in the U.S. greatly. Another factor meteorologists focus on is what is known as the blockiness of the jet stream across the lower 48. A straight line west to east flow moves weather systems across the country, well distributing heat and precipitation over time. However, if the flow loops wildly north and south, cold and warm air masses will sit over the same place for long stretches.
And what does this mean for the energy market?
All energy markets are predicted to see lower prices this winter due to a decrease in demand. As long as the milder predictions hold true, energy forecasts call for a 15% decrease in household spending on heating oil, 5% decrease on natural gas, and a 2% decrease on electricity from last winter. However, this could all change if the winter does not pan out as predicted. If we were to see another winter as cold as the last one, natural gas prices could go up as much as 6% in the Northeast, which is almost double the 3.6% increase expected elsewhere across the nation.
Are there any other factors playing a role in these decreased prices?
A worldwide pattern of falling crude oil prices is also helping to decrease energy costs. U.S. regular gasoline retail prices have fallen 29 cents from the June average to $3.41 a gallon and are expected to dip down to $3.14 a gallon for December. Additionally, a weakening global demand helped North Sea Brent crude oil prices fall to $97 a barrel, the first price below $100 in the past 2 years.
And thanks for being here, Amanda and Faith.
Thanks, Ryan and Meredith, for having us. Another risk report will be back here next week.
Welcome back to Up in the Air.
Hunter Williams is here now with a look at the weather pattern for next week.
Thank you, Ryan and Meredith. I'm student meteorologist Hunter Williams here with your climate outlook. Now, as we inch our way closer to the weekend, a lot of people wondering what the weather's going to be like for Halloween. We typically associate Halloween with fall characteristics, but won't necessarily be feeling like fall throughout the rest of this week, as we could see above normal temperatures for a lot of people here. Now, along the immediate East Coast, we're going to be just about average, but as we extend inward towards the interior parts of the nation, above normal temperatures likely for a lot of folks here, extending through Texas, upwards through parts of Nebraska as well, so we will continue to monitor that. Now, as far as precipitation, above normal precipitation likely for a lot of people through the Northeast, extending down through parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, towards Texas, Mississippi, and Louisiana as well. That's in association with a few frontal systems that could be moving through as we get towards later this week. but through parts of South Florida as well, below normal precipitation likely. That's only slightly below normal. However, now pushing out west, it is a different story. As we've seen the past couple of weeks here, we're watching below normal areas of precipitation. These are the same places we've been talking about through parts of central California, through Nevada, and pushing off through Utah and Colorado as well. To the northwest, above normal rain, likely, however, through parts of Washington and Oregon as well. Now, we've been mentioning these same places through the past couple of weeks here, and the CPC actually monitoring exceptional drought through these parts of central and into northern California and through Nevada as well. And this exceptional drought is the highest level of drought as classified by the CPC, so we will continue to monitor this and potential fire weather that could ensue in these areas as well. Once again, I'm student meteorologist Hunter Williams. Back to Ryan and Meredith.
Thanks, Hunter. We hope that drought in California improves sometime soon.
Yeah, definitely. And next up is a report from our TV meteorology class here at Penn State. Ross Caruso is here now with a look at fall foliage.
It's that time of the year again. As we begin the transition of summer to fall, we begin to see some changes in the area. One of which stands out the most to us would have to be the changes in the colors of the leaves. As we all know, leaves get their color from a pigment called chlorophyll during the summertime. Leaves then store up energy and food with the help of sunlight. But during the fall season, there isn't enough sunlight for the leaves to keep up with their usual processes, so the trees absorb the nutrients from the leaves and store them in the trunk and in their roots. The leaves then begin to change and give us the beautiful foliage that we see. While these leaves are nice to look at, they're in many cases a hassle for people in the area. Leaves begin to fall and pile up around people's houses, drains, roofs, and yards. There are, however, many options available for the residents of State College. Mimi Cooper, who works for the Central County Recycling and Refuse Authority, was able to give me some beneficial uses for the fall leaves.
We have several options in a mandated community. Our municipalities do a leaf collection, so you can put your leaves curbside and they can be picked up. However, if you're more interested in using leaves to your benefit, you have a couple other options of what you can do. There are two things, and they're both basically in the same decomposer process. You can either make compost out of your leaves, or you can make something called leaf mold. If you want to make compost out of your leaves, you're going to have two different food sources, and leaves would only be one of those food sources. The other thing that you would need to add are green organics that are high in nitrogen. Your leaves are just a carbon-rich source, which is basically a sugar. So if you're going to make compost, you need to add greens and browns in a measured balance. And in the spring, you would have a compost that has nutrient capacity as well as soil amendment capacity that you can then till back into your gardens or spread on your yard or around your trees. Your other option, if you just have an overabundance of leaves, is to make something that we call leaf mold. Leaf mold is very, very simple to make. There are two basic ways that it can be done. Just write them up and somehow contain them in a wire bin. And you simply just put your leaves in there in a neglected corner of your backyard. Every now and then go and stir the pile to introduce some air to help the decomposition process. They will break down anywhere from 6 months to 24 months depending on your conditions. Other way to make it, if you don't have that space, is just to gather up those leaves, put them in a black bin. You can slice then some holes in the black bin liner and every now and then shake that trash can bag. The difference with leaf mold and compost, when you go to add leaf mold back into your gardens, it's not going to give you the nutrient capacity, but it will be a good soil amendment. It helps any soils that have a hard time holding moisture or draining well. So it is a very good amendment. Either one is a good option, composting or leaf mold.
Thanks, Ross. That was a great report.
And Meredith, that's about all the time we have for this week here on Up in the Air. It was another exciting episode.
That is for sure. Tune in next week for more.
I'm Ryan Breton.
And I'm Meredith Fish. Join us next time, Up in the Air.